Hey guys, Nico here from Vantage Planning, and this is the next episode of Millennial Money Canada. And in this episode, I'm going to share with you guys the 5 most common financial pitfalls that millennials should avoid. Right, so money is such a top stressor in many people's lives, and the thing with it, it's very avoidable. It's very easy for you to succeed financially with confidence and peace of mind without having to worry about it too much if you avoid the most common pitfalls that most people go through. And luckily for you, there's hundreds, thousands, and millions of people who have gone through this for you so that you don't have to. And I'm going to share them with you. So number one thing is a lot of people, especially when they're young, they take on too much debt than they can handle. The 3 top ones that I find are student loan debts, credit card debts, and mortgages, right? For this video, I'm going to talk mostly about credit card debts, but if you want to learn more about the common pitfalls with student loan debts and mortgages, check out my blog in the bio below or the link below, and you can learn more about it. Right? So with credit card debt, you want to be able to avoid the trap of reaching into your credit card for money that you don't have. And it's pretty simple actually. It's just making sure that you don't spend money that you don't have. And the problem is, more today than ever before, it's tougher to deal with this because we're put up with pressure to keep up with the Joneses, to put up this face or this facade that we have our shit together, that we have a nice car and the nice clothes, and that we're traveling a lot and that we're partying a lot. And it's a really expensive lifestyle. And most people can't actually afford to keep up this lifestyle. And so if you get into that trap of having to live like this and you're spending money that you don't have, maybe one month you spend $100, $200 more than you should, but then you keep doing that again and again for a year, 2 years, 5 years, and that $200 a month becomes $20,000 a month in credit card debt, and it becomes very hard for you to pay it off, right? And so what I recommend is to avoid it altogether by just living within your means. And what that takes is for you to really look within and see what you value most, and make sure it's the things that you want to spend your money towards and not the things that you think you should spend your money on because your friends or family or society tells you to, right? And if you find yourself in a bit of credit card debt already, make a conscious effort to pay above the minimum. Make a structured plan on when you want to get it paid off and stay disciplined to it, because if you don't have a plan to pay off that debt, it can stay around for years and maybe even decades, because the interest rates are so high that sometimes it becomes hard to pay off. So that's common pitfall number 1. Common pitfall number 2 is that there's a lack of balance in terms of your finances. And by that I mean there's always going to be a balancing act between spending today and saving for the future. Right? And the reality is it's a spectrum between the two, finding out how much you want to spend, how much you want to save. Because the money that you spend today is the same dollars that you can't save for tomorrow, right? And most people when they're young, in their 20s and 30s, they're more on one side of the spectrum where they're spending too much money today without thinking too far out into the future. And you want to think about it, right? So think about what are the certain things that you want to spend your money on that require saving. And these can include a house, a down payment. It can include saving for retirement or starting a business or starting a family. You want to think about these things and say, oh, you know what? I do want to save up money for this. And then put part of the money that you're spending today towards those things. And there's also the other side of the spectrum where sometimes I see people save all their money and don't spend any money on themselves or treat themselves in any way. And the thing with this you want to be careful with is sometimes people save because they believe that the money in the future will give them some sort of joy and happiness. And you want to become clear in why you're saving, because you might realize the thing that you're saving for might not have been as worthwhile as you thought. And then it meant that you deprive yourself today of the joys that could have made you happier today for something that didn't make you happy. So you want to make sure that you're clear with why you're saving, and feel free to treat yourself and take yourself out once in a while, right? So the reality is everyone's different. The balance in your life is different from the person next to you or your family members. And the balance for you right now is different from the balance for you 20 years from now. Maybe today when you're still young, you still want to spend money on traveling and going out, while 10 to 15 years from now, maybe it's more focused on saving for your children's education or for your retirement. So common pitfall number 3 is not taking risk. One very basic investment philosophy is that the amount of return that you get is equal to the amount of risk you're willing to take. And when you're young, it's often recommended that if you have a long time horizon, say 20, 30, 40 years, you want to be able to take on a bit more risk than you're comfortable taking. And the reason for that is that you can stomach the short-term volatility in your investments, knowing that you don't need it for another 20, 30 years, and then you can take advantage of the higher returns in the long run. And the thing with this is, if you choose a safer investment, such as a GIC or a treasury bond, where it gives you 1%, 2%, 3%, you might miss out in the long run because, say, if inflation's 3%, your money isn't actually growing as fast as the cost of everything around you. And in the long run, it actually ends up being more risky for you, right? And so this is one of the things that you want to make sure that you're comfortable taking a bit more risk. And there's actually more areas in your life aside from your finances, such as your relationships, your business, your career, pursuing your passions and things like this. You want to be able to be comfortable taking risks in these aspects, and it's very important for our finances. And so if you want to learn more about it, again, check out the blog and the link below. I write in more detail about these things. How is that relevant to your finances? The main reason for that is really financial planning is changing the actions you're taking to revolve around your life goals and your life objectives. And when you allow yourself to take on a bit more risk in life, in your business, in your relationships, in your passions, then it changes the whole trajectory of your plan. It changes the type of investments that we choose. It changes how much we budget or the type of budgeting we choose. It changes the type of habits we want to replace or want to change. And it's important for you to get clear with that. And so the 5th common pitfall is that there's a lack of farsightedness in people's thinking or in their vision. And this really ties into the 2nd common pitfall, which is spending too much money today, right? What I find is, especially when you're young, when you don't have dependents, it's very easy for you to spend money on traveling, on going out, things that are short-term, maybe short-term goals that you're saving towards, but you don't really think about the things that are important to you 20, 30, 40 years from now. And one question I usually like to ask my clients is, say you were talking to your 65-year-old self, what would be the things that you would thank yourself today for doing? And then when you start reflecting, asking yourself these questions, you'd realize, well, the things that I would be doing today might be different than the things that you're actually doing, right? And so it's a bit of reflection and self-awareness and understanding what's really important for you. Because oftentimes I have this conversation with people in their 40s and their 50s and 60s, where the conversation involves having regret in terms of the decisions they made in their 20s and 30s. And hindsight's 20/20, but you want to be able to have forward-sightedness. I think that's a term. You want to have that forward-sightedness to see what is it that you would thank yourself in the future. And sometimes that may involve having your insurances early, saving for your future earlier, saving for retirement, taking care of your health, taking care of your mental health, and things like this for you to succeed financially and in life, right? So if you avoid these common pitfalls, then you're more likely to succeed financially, and more importantly, you, instead of dealing with the stresses of finances, you feel more confident and with more peace of mind. So hope you found that helpful. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, share it with a friend, and I'll see you in the next episode of Millennial Money Canada. Thank you and take care. Hey guys, so sorry about that. I totally missed the 4th most common financial pitfall. and that is being unable to communicate about your finances. It kind of ties with the very first common pitfall, not necessarily about the debt, but with the pressure from society and culture to maintain this type of lifestyle that isn't very sustainable. And so many people pretend to have their finances in order when they don't necessarily do, especially because money is such a taboo topic. If you're in a very uncomfortable situation, it's much easier to avoid the conversations about money as opposed to talking about them head on, right? And so the very first step in fixing your situation, whatever that is for you, is to accept it and be able to communicate it with those who are close to you. But first thing you need to understand is that you're not the only one in your situation, especially with the situation people have with debt. You're not the only person with debt, and that the moment you acknowledge that there are thousands and not millions of people in that similar situation, you can kind of take a step back and realize, oh, you know what? It's not as bad as I thought. It's okay to have these type of conversations, and once you have these conversations with yourself and those that are close to you, you can start taking the right action steps to progress and build momentum in the right direction. This is most important when you have a spouse or a partner who you share the finances with. Even if you both keep your financial situations, deal with your financial affairs separately, being able to communicate with your problems or your financial situation openly leads to being able to work together as a team, as opposed to arguing and having all that tension that many couples have in regards to finances. So make sure that you become comfortable talking to others and being open about it with yourself when it comes to talking about finances. So that's the fourth most common financial pitfall. Hope you found this video helpful again, guys, and take care.